Welcome to tonight's show, if you want to call it that. Tonight's stream, tonight's chat. Welcome, welcome. Come one, come all. What's going on, everybody? Having a good time out there in Canada land. Lots of exciting things going on. Our wonderful government's up to its old tricks in these EMA. I didn't know what the East Coast Music Awards were like. I didn't realize that they took place over such a span of time, and I didn't realize that it was all about these politicians getting them up there and them just lying over and over again. I thought it was about the music, guys. Or is that the ECMAs? It's not. I don't know. I don't know. Chris Baring. How do, Peter? '07. How do, sir? Oh, sorry, Christ Baring. Sorry about that. It's like I was reading something today, and I read a complete, like I was looking at a couple lines at once, and a receipt. That's what I was doing. I was going through receipts at work, and I was looking at a couple lines at once, just going down through the list, and I thought for sure I seen Soul Bearing, like Sewell the Bearing, and it wasn't that at all. It was just like three different things that all the letters kind of blended together, but my mind perceived Sewell Bearing. Superseding the powers. Who are the powers? The powers that are over us. How do we supersede the powers? Well, the powers were given to us for a reason. People are put in power for a reason. We elected officials for a reason. We have a history of having, officials and a government, small government, mostly taken care of provincially, and throughout the provincial level, you had a lot of county level government, right, and overseeing. And see, we get upset about the federal government, and we talk about giving rights back to the provinces, right, or the states' rights and stuff, but how about giving rights back to every little town and municipality and so on and so forth, so that they can deal properly with their areas? Like, I remember when I was a kid, I never got to experience this, but I grew up in a very small area, very rural area in New Brunswick, and called Cumberland Bay. I went to school in Chipman. So if you know East Coast Canadian, we came up in the same area. I never knew him because he was older than me, but regardless, we came up in the same area. Slippin, he was originally from Chipman, Minto area as well, and anyways, they know it's a very small area, just like a lot of New Brunswick, very rural, small towns, small villages, just places that you just drive through, right? Especially now, you drive through them because there's nothing there, right? Maybe a store, maybe, but a lot of the villages, even now that had a few thousand people, even different services and means are leaving them as well. Like in Chipman, for instance, there's not even a bank in Chipman anymore. There used to be a Scotia Bank. There's no Scotia Bank. And now they're talking about, or they have amalgamated, Chipman and Minto, and they're doing that with all kinds of other places in New Brunswick, small places that are dying out because nobody's having kids, right? And the fact is, people aren't having kids, but people have up and moved out of these towns because there's no more work in them. But there used to be these towns, these villages, all these places that a lot of us came from. They used to thrive at one point in time. They didn't have to be big city. They had their own identity, and they had their own things that took care of that town, and the people took care of those things, and those towns prospered for years. And then all of a sudden there was this shift to get people out of the rural settings and get them into the cities. And a way to do that was by shutting down work slowly in these areas, and also sending contracts to other provinces and so on and so forth. All these things, and I'm just talking about New Brunswick because that's the only thing that I can really talk about and know and know about how it was. I can't speak for any of the other provinces, but I'm sure that it was probably something similar. And so all these small towns, like even Cumberland Bay, like, you know, you think about it, we have hockey teams, right? And we have, you know, how many hockey teams are in Canada? You got Toronto, you got Montreal, you got Winnipeg, you got Edmonton, you got Calgary, you got, is there anybody else? I don't even know. I haven't watched hockey in 7 years or more, to be honest with you. Used to play hockey all the time. Used to be a hockey guy. Don't watch it all anymore. The guy that played hockey his whole life doesn't watch it anymore. And now the fags that never played hockey run around in their favorite jersey and pretend that they're all Canadian because they watch hockey. All of a sudden they're the biggest fans of hockey. Never played it, couldn't play it growing up. Maybe tried to play it but weren't any good, didn't have any heart or anything like that, and now they're the biggest fans, right? Especially now that Don Cherry's gone and all the guys like that. But side note there, but kind of related. So all these small towns, they used to have thriving mills, mines, you know, work in the woods, just different businesses, blue collar stuff all around the province, right? There's mills all over the place, all kinds of independent mills, and just people had, and farms all over the place. Beef farms, dairy farms, pig farms, whatever, right? Most of the province lived on a farm at one point in time. And when I was younger, that was probably getting towards the end of that. And we'd hear a lot of stories about the good old days. Like in Shipman, there used to be actually a drive-in theater at one point. You know, there's a drive-in theater. There's actually a main street that had storefronts on it, right? Now there's nothing. There's a couple stores, but not much. And Cumberland Bay, you know, there used to be a rink there with a community center, an outdoor rink. And it was an outdoor rink, but they still had changing rooms, they had scoreboard, they had the boards and some bleachers and everything like that set up, and that place used to friggin' bump back in the day. There used to be the guys from around Cumberland Bay, they would have a team, and they would play guys from Coal Creek who would have a team, and they would play guys from Shipman who'd have a team, who would play guys from Red Bank, and then from Minto and Briggs's Corner, and then you got Coles Island and Young's Cove and Mill Cove and all these places like that. And there was enough guys around that all played hockey, and it was something for them all to do. And they had tournaments, and they had trophies, and they had jerseys and stuff, right? And there used to be parades and stuff in these little towns and everything like that, and little fairs and all that stuff, right? And the church used to be heavily involved with the town and everything like that. But not anymore. Not anymore. The demoralization has been taking place over a long time, and someone that grew up in the rural setting, you can really see how that demoralization has taken place, because where I grew up, I could just see every year less and less being there. Things shutting down, more people moving away, less people moving back, and, you know, becomes a town of mostly retired people. And maybe retarded people. No, just kidding. But retired people. And a community can't survive that way. And so they say, we're not having enough kids. There's so many people that are in retirement. We need to have people working to provide for these people. So then their answer is to flood the nation with millions of people that don't have any stake in this country, that don't have any history in this country, that maybe don't even have the same traditions as people in this country. Okay? And so you think that you're going to just come and just replace what's already here, because it's not that there's not people here to work, it's just that people aren't working. You're not encouraging people to work, and you're not allowing people to work, and you're not giving them the incentive to work. You're not giving them the opportunities to work. And over such a period of demoralization, they've flooded us with drugs and alcohol and sex and porn and faggotry and sports ball and all this stuff. And it's just basically corrupted the mind to such a degree that we're just a bunch of drunkards running around, that we don't have any clue who we are and what this country's even about. Darren Turner, what's up, buddy? This country is nothing like it was founded on. In fact, if they would have realized what it would become, they probably wouldn't even have bothered starting it, right? No, they probably would have, because they still needed to live. They still needed to survive. They still had to fear in God, and they did what they needed to do to make this country what it is today, right? They cut down trees, pulled stumps out of the ground, pulled rocks out of the ground, cleared fields, started settlements, started mills, logging, fur trade, all this stuff, shipbuilding, all these different things. Men had work all over this land. They were trained up. They learned how to do jobs. They did them well. And even when that started to die down, people were still working, and you could say menial labor jobs or whatever. You could say, basic work, right? Normie work or whatever. It's blue collar work. It's everyday work. Farming, all this stuff. Agriculture, right? Trucking, mechanic work, carpentry, plumbing, septic, all this stuff. You get all these guys, and yet they say that there is a shortage because they're shutting things down. They're not allowing people to build in places. They're trying to take away any opportunity for people to get their lives turned back around by empowering them to be deadbeats, empowering them to be drug addicts, empowering them to be porn addicts, empowering them to not give a shit about anything. And it's like those memes when you see about the guys and they're getting ready to storm the beaches of Normandy, they're getting ready to do D-Day, and the gate's about to drop on the landing craft, and they're all like, I'm fighting for LGBT rights. I can't wait for my great-grandson's dick to be cut off. Right? So in this stream, like, I got booted after my last stream. It was a great stream. Daytime stream. Clear head. Had the little one with me. Went really well. And then they banned me for a week. Gave me a strike. Said there was medical misinformation. I went back and tried to review the thing. I seen very little that they could even classify as that. Very, very little. But I covered a litany of topics. And, like I say, I thought it was a really good stream. And apparently, they didn't think so. So they shut her down. Oh, what was that on? So, I'm going to try not to talk about certain things. There's only one thing that I ever get hit for. It's always on the medical side. But even though other streams can talk like ad nauseum about it, if I mention anything and the repercussions having to do with it, then it's just ban them. Ban that small 279 subscriber channel. And then when we strike them for that week, every day we're going to take away a couple subscribers. And that's what they did. And that's what they do. So, you used to have pride in your hometown, not because It was the greatest thing on earth, not because it was the epitome of civilization, not because it was the metropolis above all that it had, the all the wonders of the world contained in that small town. Hello, Gary Clothier. How you doing, buddy? Not because it was anything super spectacular, but it was your piece of dirt that was all you knew. And remember when the world was so small, when you only knew what was going on around your community and maybe the surrounding communities? When it didn't matter what was going on in Fredericton or St. John or anywhere else, that the only thing that mattered, what was going on, was in Cumberland Bay. What's going on in Chipman on a Friday night? Right? The Legion, of course. But now there's none of that. There's none of that stuff. And we can think about all these different solutions for what we can do. But unless we turn back to God and worship Him, follow Him, submit ourselves to Him, then there ain't no way we're coming out of this in a good way. And I say that because it's like someone will say, well, I think I believe in God, but I'm just not quite sure yet. And just hear me out on this. I think I believe in God, but I'm just not really ready to commit to, the Christian life, right? Like I don't, there's certain things I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do. I need to get my life in order first, or it's like getting married. I'm like, well, I'm not going to get married until I have this much of an income, have a house and a dog and a truck and have all my toys, and then I can be ready then to settle down. And then after, she's got all of her stuff in order, and then we'll decide, if it's the right time to have a child. Well, it's like people do that with God too, right? And they'll put God off because they think that they have something. That's the thing. Okay, listen to this. Subconsciously, you think that you have something to bring to the table, okay? When in reality, it's just you. It's just you, yourself. And if it's just you, yourself, that's not the greatest gift, right? It's not the greatest offering to God. Why? Because we're all sinful creatures, right? We've all sinned. We've all done things and do things, right? Where nobody among us can put anybody else up on a pedestal and say, this man is very righteous and above all men, right? Okay, if that person is being lifted up, they should say, no, I'm just like you, right? And I have all my shortcomings as well, right? So don't lift me up. If you're gonna glorify anybody, glorify God. And you hear that in the Bible all the time, where guys will give the apostles admiration, and they'll bow to worship, or somebody will see an angel and they'll bow to the angel and go to worship, and the angel will say, no, I'm just a fellow servant like you. Don't bow to me, right? Worship God, right? That's right, only Jesus. So people think that they are bringing something to the table with God, but the fact of the matter is you're bringing nothing but your sin. That's true. The only thing that you're bringing to God is your sin, because He knows everything about you, right? He knows all the good things, and He also knows all the moles and the warts about you, right? So you can't bring anything to God to say, here, God, I'll trade you this for salvation. Because the fact of the matter is, the trade was already made when God came to this earth as Jesus Christ and was crucified on the cross. That is how you are made clean, and that is how you can be an offering to God, right? But not by your own works. Even when you're saved, right? It's not the works that save you. Do good works, right? Be righteous, right? Don't, like, you can have perfection in your mind and know that Jesus is perfection, that God's law is perfection, right? And if you understand that that is perfection and you are striving towards that, even though you make mistakes, you are justified. Okay? Justified. Understand that? Your sins are not counted against you. Let that not be an occasion to sin, though. See, we need to raise up a holy army of men and women to fight this spiritual battle that we're in. Because only if we come together, if we pray together, if we pray for other people that are in the same fight as we are, even if they maybe don't believe the same as us, or maybe if they don't follow God or believe in Jesus Christ, but they're still seeking truth, I guarantee you that person is on their way to understanding and believing in God and believing on Jesus Christ. Because I said this when I first started my channel, that in the coming years that people are going to start getting really, really religious. And people are like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think I'll just be the same. But here we are in 2022, and a lot more people are getting a lot more religious, right? And it's not even intentionally. They weren't out necessarily seeking it. They're seeking truth, but yet truth is leading them to Christ. And you say, well, I'm not there yet, Peter. I'm not quite there. Well, you will be. I hope and pray you will be. I have a lot of friends online, and a lot of people that I wish I knew if you were my friends or not. I wish that we, had a little more of a connection and had a little more of a partnership, because, I think if we, started chatting and whatnot, that we would understand that we all get along pretty well, and that, I'm not a stuffy guy that doesn't know how to have any fun or have any jokes, kind of thing, right? I'm just a dude that's been jaded over years of looking into this stuff and not having many people to bounce it off to, and then getting frustrated when you start trying to bounce it off your friends, and your friends basically are like, yeah, I just can't talk about this anymore, right? So you got nobody to bounce anything off, no real close friends. I mean, I got my wife, and me and my wife talk about a lot of things, but there's only so far I can go with my wife, and then she's like, okay, all right, you're getting too heated here, you're getting too passionate, we'll say. Or I can talk about it with my dad, but even with my dad, I have to also filter it to a certain level, right? Obviously, more so in the I just have to watch what I say more, because I don't want to cuss or be too brash around my old man. Not that he can't handle it or anything like that, but it's just there's no point in doing it when you're just talking with some people. You don't need to curse and swear and carry on. Other people you can, right? And it's always funny that when you get talking with somebody else and they think that, because you're a Christian, that you can't bring any heat, you don't have any hardness to you, right? You don't got that gusto, right? Well, I guarantee you I got very much as much gusto as anybody you've met. So I like confrontation. Love it. Hate it, but I love it. And because I don't have as much communication with people, I find I'm a lot more confrontational with people that I'm just trying to meet. And I don't mean confrontational that I'm trying to start a fight with them, but I mean confrontational in that my guard is up, and I'm always vetting people. And that sounds stupid and paranoid, but in this time of disinformation campaigns and people out there that are just liars and deceivers, one cannot be too careful when it comes to that stuff. One can't be too careful when it comes to that stuff. But I'm getting past that point of really caring, and just like anybody else, I would rather just try. I'd rather just try to, connect some bridges and then let the chips fall where they may, right? Because I do a thing in life where I give people a lot of opportunity. And that sounds stupid how I said that, but when I say that, I mean, like, I will allow people to tell me things, and I'll respect their position in a manner that maybe we can, talk about this in a certain way and make a few points here and have a little bit of a discussion or debate, and then maybe we can get on the same page, right? But there's such a wall that's up now when it comes to talking to people that I find even with people that I want to talk to, I have a hard time expressing myself. And I've always kind of been like that. I might start a job somewheres, except for when I was in my early 20s. But you start a job somewheres, and it takes me a while to kind of get warmed up. I'll stay pretty quiet and pretty like, just yes sir, no sir, right? Until I start getting comfortable. And then once I start getting comfortable, then, I might crack a joke or something like that kind of deal. And you work your way in there slowly but surely, right? But it gets to a point, right, where because you are a Christian, they have a certain idea about you. Because you're always thinking about the things that you say and how you're saying it, almost to a ridiculous degree where you're probably overthinking it sometimes. You'll say something and it'll catch people off guard, or you make a joke, or you'll take something to a different level, right? That wasn't previously gone to. And people will look at you like, Peter, did you just say that? Or they just won't even understand, or the reference will go over their head, right? Because I said it. And it's really funny. But that's because it comes mostly in a work environment. When you're in a work environment, it has to stay at a certain level. But you know what it's like when you're around the water cooler. Everybody gets joking and everything like that. And I've got myself established enough there that people just assume that I'm a quiet dude, but I come out with dry whips every now and again. So I do my thing. No one bothers me. It's great for the most part. So anyways, speaking of delusions of paranoia, this is funny. So today, this is a good story. This is an example, and I had to really think about this afterwards, and do a little self-reflection and whatnot. But this is a good example of my personality. I mean, this is stupid. I mean, this is retarded. Miss Maskless, how you doing? Good to see you, dear. Good to see you, dear. What Good News Bear saying? The church followed the death serum injections and discriminated against uninjected death serum people. Leviathan has heads, but he also has a tail. That's the Christian church. Yes, the church that calls itself Christian, right? Or those that say they're Jews and they're not, right? There's a lot of people that say they are things and they are not, right? And the world is full of those people, and those people are running our country at this very moment. They are habitual liars. They are trained Marxists and communists. They will take power ruthlessly at any cost. They'll lie about absolutely everything. They will tell you that the sky is pink when it's blue. They'll tell you that it's blue when it's pink. They'll tell you that there are 185,000 genders. They will tell you that you are a racist if you do not allow immigrants to come and flood your community. They will say whatever they need to say in order to make you look like the bad guy and make themselves look like the good guy. But they're playing their hand to such a degree. It's like this, I think. It's like when a construction job is coming together or something like that, it's, you know, it's a very slow kind of process as the different, you know, groups got to come in. You got the concrete guys in, you've got to have like the plumbers coming in, you got to have the guys who are doing the lights and electrical and different things like that, and they all have to come in at different points in time, and some guys can't come in before other guys, and so it, you know, it takes place, it takes time, it's slow, it's a process, and then near the very end, there's just like a bunch of people. Once that stuff is kind of done and all the main stuff is out of the way and nobody's really going to be in each other's way by doing anything big, then everybody is in there doing the cleanup, doing all the last minute things, fixing things up, tidying, coming, going, and that's what this is, right? It was a very slow process until it wasn't, and right now, when they're getting to the very end of their goal, they have to speed it up, and when you speed it up, you ultimately will start revealing your hand and making mistakes. And you know, it's like on a ship and they're out in the wind and they gotta cut the sail because it's gonna, you know, split the mast or whatever, right? And so they're going and they're cutting the sail. Or maybe it would be better if it was like the wind's coming up and the sail's up, and instead, you know, they're cutting the sail, and you're like, hey, you're cutting the sail. And they're like, yeah, no, I know, we gotta cut the sail. Like, yeah, but we need to get out of here and the wind's coming up. Yeah, but the sail's gotta go. And they're just cutting it, right? So you're really starting to see what it is that they're doing. It's all being brought out, and they're scrambling and panicking because these people are chronic panickers, right? These are not the most hardened individuals, right? They're not the most serious people, okay? Over the last 30 years or so, within our generation, this age's generation, all of the guys didn't want to have much to do with society, and all of our nerd counterparts went in and got themselves in positions of power and influence, and became teachers and professors and radio disc jockeys and all this stuff, right? And journalists and all this stuff, and all the dudes either stayed working blue collar or they went to become big shots in the city somewheres, and so they don't give a shit about anything as long as they're driving a sports car and, you know, eating filet mignon. Which those guys are just as useless. Those guys are just as useless. Because they don't give a frig about anybody but themselves. And capitalism to them is a vehicle for their own self-indulgence and greed. That is true. That's 100% true. No problem with people having stuff. No problem with people having things. But if you think the guys that built this country were all like, jumping someday, I really hope my great-grandson's able to fly around the country multiple times in a week, bang girls in different states, rent expensive sports cars, go and shoot at the gun range, you know, make TikTok videos, right? And just friggin' stunt every fucking day. Like, do you think that that's what they were thinking? No, they weren't. And just as much as they'd be appalled at the faggotry that's going on, they would be appalled at the overconsumption and the ridiculous narcissistic nature of the real toxic masculinity, which is this fake masculinity where you have guys walking around like juiced to the gills, tatted to the ears, to the eyeballs, right? Like looking like medieval or like tribal characters and shit. And they're just like, we're just living our best life, man. Lying, lying to people on social media, telling them that they suck because they're poor and they're not living like me. Well, if everybody lived like you, asshole, we'd be a sinking ship pretty freaking quick. Because who's making your filet mignon? Who killed the cow? Who raised the cow? Who gardened the vegetables? Who brought them into the table? Who washed them? Who prepared them? Right? Who built those sports cars? Who did all that stuff? You friggin' asshole. Andrew Tate. They take Andrew Tate and they take guys like Liver King, right? And you can take clips from things that they say, and they say some very powerful things that are, 100%, I understand that. But that's a sound bite that they're purposely getting, so it's some faggot that signed up for Hustlers Club 101, right, the monthly subscription, or signed up to the 10 primitive anal ritual traditions of man, whatever it is, signed up for that for their monthly subscription, bought all the gear, bought the steroids, bought the crypto, bought a supercar they couldn't afford, right? Jet setting. What a life. Yeah, you're looking like a hot shot and everything that, but you're a piece of shit. And millions of young men are following you. And although I don't disagree with some of the stuff that you're saying, the way that you're promoting the things that you're talking about, like traditionalism, what's traditional about how you're living? You're not even married. Well, Liver King is actually. He's got kids. I'll at least give him that credit. But he is a liar. He is a liar, an habitual liar. I mean, that guy can't stop lying. Every time he opens his mouth, he's pretty much lying. Very positive dude, but whether or not he's positive or not and turns everything around, if he's lying, he's lying. Right? And these people aren't to be looked up to. Right? Like, they're making millions of dollars. They're not. Andrew Tate's not banned. He's got channels everywhere. He's got people that have channels for him everywhere. Can he fight? Sure. Right? Like, is he big? Sure. Like, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what he looks like. I don't care that he's got a freaking tattoo rolling around his chest, around his tit to his freaking shoulder onto his back. I don't care about that. I care less about what Andrew Tate has. Right? And then here he goes. He's like, oh, I'm going to be Muslim. And he gets mad about someone. Don't know the guy's name. Oh, True Gordy. I don't know this dude. Seems like an idiot too. He made some kind of remark about Andrew Tate being Muslim and was like, why don't you go do everybody a favor and go blow yourself up? That's what those people like to do so much. And so Andrew Tate went off talking about how disrespectful and racist that comment was. Well, have not Muslims blown themselves up anywheres? Have they not? Have they not, Andrew? Have they not declared jihad in different places? Wow. Those are just certain Muslims. No, those were Muslims that really believed the stuff that they were told, right? Whether it was stuff they were brainwashed into or not. Does it say anything like that in the Quran? I don't care. They deny Christ. They call him a wonderful prophet, but not the true Christ. It's like, okay, well, you wouldn't even have any of your stuff if it wasn't for, like, they piggyback off the Bible, piggyback off the Old Testament, but only at Ishmael, right? Because Abraham had Ishmael by Hagar, and so that founded the Arab nations. And so then these guys are going to take that, well, Ishmael was Abraham's firstborn, so technically, he has the right of being the firstborn. Well, tell that to Esau and Jacob. Jacob, who became Israel. Israel wrestles with God, contends with God, triumphant with God. Right? All these people, they all just want to ride coattails of the Bible and then deny the main message of it. And I think most people that are in the Arab world that are Muslims, I think just like a lot of the mainline institution of Christianity lies to their congregates, I think the main line muftis and all these ones in Islam, they lie to their congregates too. There's a lot of these ones because you look at a lot of these Western Muslims, okay? Some of them are religious. Some of them are not. Was Islam created by the Roman Catholic Church? I definitely would say it has roots there for sure. He respected the Pope a lot and venerated the Pope a lot, Muhammad that is, and where it is that he was trained up by them as a way to PC's running low. One second. Okay. How did that work? They created the Muslims to basically I don't know. I don't have the stuff right in front of me right now. And I don't have enough to go on that. But Islam is very heavily tied to Freemasonry and Shriners, right? And the Shriners and the Muftis of Islam, right? They all wear the fezzes, and they all share that same tradition. That in Islam, it's just like the Shriners and the lodges that they have there. As far however that whole thing works, I don't know exactly. But that's where you get a lot of that. The same thing that happens in our side of things happens on their side of things, right? It's not just a bunch of pure Muslim holy men, right? I mean, just like Christianity was used as a control mechanism over people, Islam was also used as a control mechanism over people, right? Even if there was a point in time where it was for good, right? People see these things. Whenever anybody sees anything that they can take control of that'll be used as influence over people, they will take control over, whether it's Islam, whether it's the church, whether it's Catholicism, whether it's Protestantism, right? Whether it's the Church of England, right? But anyway, so this True Gordy thing, he got so upset with this True Gordy that basically they got this True Gordy guy pretty much ruined. But they basically he's basically his sponsors and everything are dropping them because of the stuff they said about Islam. But now again, Andrew Tate with his own words said he joined Islam because that God's powerful, right? Nobody messes with Allah. Nobody dares say anything bad about Allah. But Christians, you can say whatever you want about Jesus. Well, yeah, you can. You can say anything you want about Allah. You can say whatever you want about Muhammad, too. You know? Muhammad was a pedophile. So what? What are you going to do? Put a friggin'... What's it called on me? A friggin'... what's the Muslim hit that they put on you? They don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. God couldn't have a son. That's what they believe. So they are deceived. They're in a false religion. You know, in this country, they got away from the Roman Catholic Church. They got away from the Church of England. But those denominations still found their way onto these shores. And when the United States came about, right, when they set up, you know, the separation of church and state, that there'll be no, you know, no religion basically that will have sway over the government and whatnot, right? Well, all of that meant, because everybody was Christian back then and nothing else. So there's different denominations of Christianity, and what were they talking about? What did Abraham Lincoln fear the most? He feared the Jesuits. Feared the Jesuits. And John Wilkes Booth, well, he was in, what was it, the Order of the Golden Circle? That was an occult, and Jesse James was in that too. And what was the Order of the Golden Circle? Where did that come from? Who did that link up to? Because all these different secret societies all have offshoots, and all these offshoots have offshoots, and these offshoots connect with other offshoots from the opposing sides. Just like all of them, it's like when you're a Mason, you are to be a Catholic. When you're among Mormons, to be a Mormon. When you're among Muslims, to be a Muslim, right? If you are a Jesuit, you do the same thing. If you're from any of these secret societies, wherever you are to fit in and be as the people are. Meanwhile, moving forward with your ultimate goal. And the Jesuit ideal is the same as the Illuminati ideal, which is the same as the New World Order ideal, right? Which is the destruction of all national sovereignty, the overthrow of all kingdoms, right? The overthrowing of all religion, right? To replace it with a one world religion, a one world government. That's what it's about. And when these men came to this country and founded it and said, they were talking about, you were never going to allow the Roman Catholic Church to get in such a degree of power, or we're never going to let a particular denomination of the Protestant Church to get such power that it's dictating what the government does, right? But everybody had a idea and a awareness that the laws of the country were based off that of the laws of God, the Ten Commandments. Everybody knew this. Runnymede. Your rights were won at Runnymede. They hung a king, the King of England, King Charles I. They hung him. And now we got new King Charles. But they hung King Charles I. They brought a tyrant to justice by the law of God, by using God's word, because God's word is powerful to pull down all strongholds. Nothing can stand against it. Natural law is God's law. Natural law comes from God's law. Who's the lawgiver? God. Who did God give the law to? He gave it to Moses to give it to the people of Israel, right? And by Israel, everybody would know what God's law was. So if any other nation would so follow that law and worship God above their gods that they worshipped, because he's the God above all gods, right? It's like when Paul was in, was it in Ephesus or Galatia or someplace like that, and there was this great big uproar, and everybody came running in, and there was this great big uproar, and they thought where they were holding them at this house, this guy Jason, they thought that they were gonna break the doors down because they heard that Paul was there, and he was saying that Diana was a stupid bitch and a whore and no good and everything like that, the goddess Diana. And how they got out of it was they just said hey, this man, he did not come in here and say anything like that, right? He's here preaching the gospel, and he never once denigrated Diana or questioned that the stone that fell from Jupiter, the image that fell from Jupiter, right, the Jupiter stone, he never questioned this. And so after some time, they were because they were in this one area, and they were surrounding, I don't know if it was Paul and his Jason guy and Alexander. It's in Acts. And anyways, they're yelling Diana is the goddess of the Ephesians. Diana is the goddess of the Ephesians. Diana is, and they did that for 2 hours, it says. And then finally, when they thought that there was going to be a freaking riot and they were going to kill them, then they said, hey, whoa, and they were able to calm somebody else from the crowd. Were able to calm them down, right? Basically being able to say, listen, he never came here to cause a riot or anything like that. He's doing his thing. He didn't say anything about Diana, even though he could have. but he didn't do it. And the reason why, too, right, is that the Jews go along and they would get everybody worked up, get them fired up and say, Paul's come to overthrow this whole city with this crazy doctrine about this Jewish carpenter. Don't worry, he was a blasphemer, and we had the Romans kill him. Right? 1 second. But anyways, so Paul would talk to these people, these Greeks, stuff, right? And they had all of their ideas. They were very superstitious, and Paul commented on how they were very superstitious and whatnot. And Paul had to use their philosophy and reason, because he knew that they were reasonable people, and so that if he was able to explain the gospel to them and align it with, you know, the history, going back and talking about these things, then these people, being reasonable, might understand and they might believe. And there's people today that you can talk to and you can reason with, whether it's about the government, whether it's about, you know, the last 3 years, whether it's about, you know, any of the issues that we face, right? There's some people that you can talk to and they're ready to hear, and they're ready to receive, and they're ready to talk back with you, and maybe even flesh out a few things, right? And maybe debate with you a little bit to clear up your position, right? And then there's other people that they're just not going to get it. They don't care. They just go home, right? They just tune out. And then there's people that get angry at you because they were told by someone else that you were a liar and that you were a bigot and that you were a racist and misogynist and all these other buzzwords, right? And so they can't listen to you, so they're already shut down. And then you have the people that they don't plan on listening to you. They hate you, and they're going to lie about you at all costs, and they are the ones that are telling these other people, feeding these other people lines and lies about you, the deceitful statements about you, right? In order to convince them that you're not worth listening to, that your points are null and void because of racisms, right? You know, it's like Mr. Jeremiah McKenzie, Raging Dissident. If you're here and you're not familiar, if you're not from Canada, most everybody that's here is in the know here. Gary Galuska, how's it going? Camo, brother, good to see you. So most all y'all are in the know and whatnot, or at least as much as I am. Like, I think he's out on bail or getting out on bail here soon, and basically he's up on charges, which I don't know what these are. Something that happened anyways a while ago, and it's very fishy that they're dealing with this process right now because they got him on this, basically whatever the charge was, to keep him, to hold him, and then once they had him and they were holding him, then they denied his right to bail. Why? Because Diagolon, the threat, the Canadian far-right accelerationist threat, Nazi threat. And so they held him on that based on some different things. You got to understand, there's these inquiries that are being done right now, okay? Emergency Measures Act inquiries that are being done, where politicians are being brought up to testify and everything, and they're being asked questions, and they're lying about it, and then whenever somebody asks a fairly hard question, then the moderator just says,
Uh, we can't ask that, okay? We're not going to get into that today. But that's why we're here. We're not going to get into why they invoked the Emergencies Act, but that's why we're here, right? And they just get up there and they lie. They lie and they lie and they lie, and I have a hard time watching it because when you have these people that are so smug and they just lie like it's nothing, like that's ruthless. You don't have to be violent to be ruthless. There's ruthless aggression, but these people are ruthless in the sense that they will say anything, right? They will say absolutely anything. They would hang their own mother if it won them some brownie points. These people are terrible, absolutely terrible. And you just look at any of them, you have a very aggressive, I won't say violent, but you have this feeling like you just want to punch them in the face. But you subside that feeling because punching the TV or your phone or the monitor will not give them a black eye, right? It will not do anything. Lying under oath and getting away with it. But that's the thing, right, Gary? They are lying under oath. They are getting away with it. But if we would hold these people to a, I don't know, higher power, a higher standard, then maybe, just maybe, we would be able to deal with these people, right? If we would quit playing these games, and I'm not talking about the crew that's watching here necessarily, I'm talking about people that are in positions of the know, in positions of power, where you could actually apply change. And instead of knowing what your standard is, what your base is, what this country was built on, what the traditions of this country were, you want to throw it all away for this new idea, this new hypothetical idea that has never happened and has only brought destruction to any nation that has implemented policies of these natures. And at the time that we're in, with the amount of people that are in our country and in other countries that are applying these principles, can you imagine the absolute chaos and destruction that this will bring when it actually comes to a head? It's going to be way worse than times in the past. Because people are going to be just helpless, absolutely helpless, sitting ducks. It's just going to be absolute chaos. But it is chaos. And it's a slow boil of chaos, right? I mean, the homeless problem was bad and it was getting worse. But then all of a sudden, just in the last year, you see these major cities in Canada. In fact, you don't even have to go to Toronto. You don't have to go to BC or any of these places, Calgary or Edmonton. You don't have to go to them. You can go to Moncton, you can go to St. John, you can go to Fredericton, these places, and you'll see homelessness is through the roof. And why aren't they trying to rehabilitate these people? Well, they're repeat offenders. Okay, well then they need to be punished then. And also helped, right? Like, but there has to be a way, right, in order to get these people to do the justice, pay the restitution, and then be rehabilitated. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be about, but they're not rehabilitating anybody. I mean, I worked in the jail system, and there's no rehabilitation there at all. The only ounce of rehabilitation that comes in a jail is for the women. They bring in people to go and all these different ones to come and talk to the women, but all that is just about making them feel pretty and good, and that every problem that they ever had was cut because of a man, right? And they want them all to turn into lesbians, right? And the guys, well, all the guys have to do is sit around, watch TV, work out, drink brew, smoke dope, smoke cigs, tailor-mades, and then just go back out and then wash, rinse, repeat. Right? They have nothing to look forward to. Right? Not that they should have something to look forward to. They're in there for doing a crime. But again, if these people were dealt with in a manner that was actually worth dealing with, they wouldn't be recommitting so much. Right? And maybe they would be. But then you would have to go to a further step, right? If these people just keep on recommitting, reoffending, right? There's so many strikes that you get and then you're out, right? And they should bring back a certain penalty of death for some of these people. Rapists, murderers, right? Pedophiles. Well, it's rape, I guess, right? Traitors to the country, they all need to go down as well. But how will we do that if the people that are ruling us see us as vermin, see us as trash, see us as garbage, right? They look at us in our faults and they say these people aren't worth saving, right? And they think that they are so righteous because they are in the positions of power, they are in the places of influence. So obviously if they got there, it had to be because they're so good. And you notice these people on the left, they are so self-righteous. Now, even the most righteous of us should perish according to them. Yep. Well, their righteousness is false. They have no righteousness. There's nothing righteous about them. The only righteousness that I have towards them is righteous indignation. Right? Righteous indignation. Okay, listen to this. Fredericton filmmaker debuts short film exploring toxic masculinity. This was out in September, okay? Filmmaker Ty Griffin says the 11-minute film explores male role models, violence culture. Fredericton filmmaker Ty Griffin always had a fascination with gangster movies, and ever since watching the movie Goodfellas, he wanted to make one of his own. He wondered why he was so drawn to these types of movies in his younger years, and eventually chalked it up to toxic masculinity. Now, I was going to paint a picture for you. This Ty Griffin guy, he's sitting there watching the movie. There's like a monitor kind of in front of him. I don't know if it's like the editing or if they're, in the theater or what he's doing. But he is you'll never confuse toxic masculinity with this dude, with Ty Griffin. Even though his name is Ty and Griffin, it's a cool name, Ty Griffin. But this guy fails. Like when you hear the name Ty Griffin, that sounds like he should be, sounds like he'd be an imposing individual. Not this guy. He's got fluffy curly blonde hair, super thick nerd glasses, look like there may be a different color as well on the frames. And yeah, he's wearing a mask. Yeah, he's watching the movie and wearing a mask. He's like this though. He's got his arms crossed. He's the lost son of Peter Griffin. Yeah, it could be. Ty Griffin. Oh, come on, Lois. At that point, the short film he was writing, Cicerone, became a look into the men that young boys look up to, and the culture of violence surrounding that. It was kind of not exactly biographical, but I definitely put myself in the shoes of the protagonists when I was writing it, said Griffin. But I think he sounds more like this. It was kind of not exactly autobiographical, but I definitely put myself in the shoes of the protagonists when I was writing it. Totally. Toxic masculinity refers to cultural pressures that encourage men to behave a certain way, which is often linked to the boys don't cry notion. You know, yeah, boys don't cry. What, are you gonna cry, you little faggot? What, are you gonna cry, huh? Oh, poor baby gonna cry. You little bitch. Right? Because that's what everybody talks like, right? No, the whole notion of boys don't cry is because nobody likes a crybaby. You can't do anything with a crybaby. What can you do with a crybaby? Crybaby makes it hard for everybody else, right? Boys don't cry. Sure they do. Every boy has cried. Every man has cried at some point in time. But you don't have to go around talking about it. Why do you have to go around talking about it? If you need to do it, get it done with, and then shut up about it. It's like if you're in jail and you get punched in the face. You better get in that bathroom and get yourself cleaned up. Now. Get yourself cleaned up, man. What are you doing out here? Cameras around here, man. Come on. See, like, I guarantee you that this guy never had the opportunity to be toxically masculine. Just going by the picture, I guarantee you he never had the opportunity to be a toxic male. In fact, the guy that I grew up with was in this movie, and he plays one of the toxic male characters. And he's a perfect example of somebody who also never had an opportunity to be a toxic male. You know, me and him were best friends growing up. I mean, I still like to consider him a friend, but we've definitely gone different paths. But only because of political reasons. And not even intentionally. It's just like, well, I guess here we are with a void fixed between us that is impassable. You know. So my friend that's in this, he never was a toxic male, right? But this guy, I would have been considered the toxic male. I am the toxic male in consideration, okay? Because I was the rough and tumble guy. I was the jock. I lifted the weights. I was the captain of the hockey team, right? I was the guy that went to too many proms, right? Like, I was a toxic man. Okay? And that's because that culture is what was promoted to us by MTV and Much Music. By the music that we listened to, by the videos that we watched, by the movies that we watched. That's what influenced us, because our dads weren't doing those things, right? But we weren't exactly like our fathers either. And so when you're trying to come up and find your way as a man, and you want to be like, you know, the tough guys from yesteryear, you have to look at the guys that are in your current era to figure out what tough is in this modern day, right? Or what is masculine, right? And so many guys get locked into this toxic masculinity that is promoted by the left. The same left that condemns it is the ones that promote it and permeate it. They're the ones that write it into all the movies, into all the scripts, into all the music videos. They're the ones, they lie and they make up hypothetical situations all the time. Okay? This buddy of mine, this would be a guy, he would go to any like local sports game, he would be there now. He probably, I don't know how many times he's gone to Toronto, probably watched the Leafs game, right? Never was much of a hockey player. Never really cared about playing hockey that much. Never had much heart, right? Never really cared to work that hard. Never didn't want to go into the corners and mix it up or hit anybody or do anything like outside of safe, right? But yet that's a person who's going to talk about what is toxically masculine. And the whole truth of the matter is they're upset because they were never that alpha male or that whatever the other one is. They were never that dude. They were never the cool guy. They were never the jock, right? They were never the stud, right? They might have been good in school and stuff, right? And they hung out with the girls and stuff all the time because they liked making the girls laugh because they were the guys that simped to the girls all the time. They followed the girls around, they simped to the girls, and then they're the ones that are like, I'm just too nice and no girl's gonna love me, right? And we might have been, and a lot of us might have been there at some point in time. You try when you're younger and you just don't know what you're doing, right? And so you go about it the wrong way. And what you think is what girls want is the exact opposite, right? And so these guys were the exact opposite of what girls wanted. But now they're in a position, Sigma. Yeah, there we go. That's Sigma. That's the one I was talking about. So then you have these guys that were betas, nerds, and then they get into a position, or like you see these ones, you see them before they even get on TV, and they're a nerd. They dress terrible, they're not necessarily in peak physical form or condition or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, and it's just like too, you see some of these pastors, these guys come out of Bible school and stuff too, right? They don't got anything right really like physically to offer kind of thing, and then all of a sudden they're in a new suit and their hair's all done and they've got the cool trendy glasses and they're so cool and hip now, right? And they're now in charge, right? And all of a sudden they're confident in themselves and they think that they're the alpha male, but they're the alpha male because they don't care about being manly. They don't care about fulfilling the traditional roles of being a man. They don't care if every man before them acted nothing like them. They're gonna be different because toxic masculinity is the bane of our existence. It's holding everybody back, especially us white men, right? The 11-minute film follows a young man named Robbie who is trying to figure out what to do with his life, said Griffin. Robbie's getting bullied at school and sees a member of the mafia named John. He looks up to John, so he decides to shadow him for a script he's writing. Sounds gay. John Wilkinson plays John in the film, and he said it was fun to explore a personality opposite to his own. So it's like, okay, honey, just bring your little ones here. Let me just twerk on them. Oh, honey, sugar, don't you even worry about it. It's like, you think that that's what women act like? Oh my goodness, I just couldn't figure out what to wear and I'm going to meet Joe Biden, the President of the United States. It's like women do not talk like that and they don't appreciate that. But you're going to pretend that you're a woman, and some of you might try a little bit, put on a wig and some makeup, and then some of you just put on horror, like a shotgun filled with makeup and just blast yourself in the friggin' face looking like a horror show, wearing maybe a wig and probably a beard with a big gut wearing a friggin' G-string or something, and we're supposed to somehow, I can't even remember what I was friggin' talking about describing that. We're supposed to look at that and think that's normal and that's progressive and that's defying the cultural norms of toxic masculinity, and by allowing these persons to come in and have their way with your children, that somehow that is fixing everything that man has done wrong in the past. Makes complete sense. What world are we living in where it's like, and these are the same guys that put on red high heels and go for a walking a mile in her shoes, right? Walking a mile in her shoes. I think they just like to put on high heels, to be honest with you. Because whenever they go, they're walking around like, oh, I could do this. This is just like Saturday. Right? How many of them are actually cross-dressers? I mean, to put your men in high heels and get them to march for a mile, and meanwhile, the women aren't like, yeah, you go. They're like, yeah, those fucking men. Yeah, wear those high heels, you stupid whores. It's like, what are you talking about? I don't understand what the point of this is. I mean, they're simping to you, and you still hate them, right? These are the same guys that think that it's just cool to be a nerdy looking middle-aged guy that tells dad jokes all the time. And don't get me wrong, I like a corny dad joke. I do like a corny dad joke. I really do. But I don't like to look like a friggin' cuck when delivering it. Right? You don't have to be a wimp and a nerd and like, oh, I don't protect my family ever. I would never stand up for my wife and defend her physically. I would never harm somebody that came into my home. I would give them cookies. I would sit them down at my kitchen table and I would just say I'm sorry for 2 hours. No, how about if you find your way in my house and you don't belong here and I don't know you, no one's gonna know what happened to you. You're just, he went in, but he didn't come out. He gone. I don't know, he gone. He gone. Ain't never to be heard from again. When it comes down to it, every human being has the capacity to do bad things. Just everybody, not everybody chooses so. Said Wilkinson. So, to kind of have this safe space. To kind of have this safe space through film. To explore that side of human nature is very, very interesting. And I can drive people nuts by doing my impressions because I can get so into them that people think that I'm the person they just want to punch me. Like my wife, for example, I can do impressions that she hates so much because she feels like it's actually me and she just wants to punch me, and it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Okay, I started telling this earlier and I didn't finish it. A little break here in this story. The next headline for this story is wrong role models. That's the next paragraph. Wrong role models. Now, who presented the role models? That you loved them, but you couldn't figure out, right, that, you know, not everything you see on TV you should repeat, right? It's like when you watch Seinfeld and you watch them be, you know, sociopaths and narcissists. It's like, I think I'm going to be more like Jerry. I'm going to be more like George, right? If I believe, that's what all our politicians are doing. They're just George Costanza in it. Right? It's not a lie if you believe it. Right? If I believe it as being true, then it ain't no lie. I cannot tell a lie because I don't tell lies because I said I don't tell lies. Look, I have it on a piece of paper. It says, Peter Branscombe does not lie. It's like Justin Trudeau. He's like, according to the last election, Canadians voted unanimously for their future. And that is lockdowns, masking, vaccines continually, forced abortion, and medical assisted suicide. Bringing in innumerable immigrants, and me funneling millions and millions of dollars to the Ukraine. Canadians all over this land stand with these. They voted for it. Look, it says I won. I'm still Prime Minister. So Canadians have to love me. And that's literally what he would say. It's like, well, it's like, Justin, are you gay? Well, I'm here, aren't I? What does that have to do with that question? Well, I'm talking, aren't I? Justin, are you lying? Well, my lips are moving, aren't they? Canadians have a long-standing tradition of sticking together in the toughest of times. And we will not allow the voices of a few extremists that let's get this straight, everybody. These people did not want to have a conversation. These people did not want to be heard. They wanted to be obeyed. And we will never kowtow to those kind of people and that sort of rhetoric. Then he sits back like a freaking idiot. Right? Because no other protests happened, or they definitely, the natives and Antifa definitely didn't pull down the statue of the Queen a couple years ago on Canada Day. Spray painted it. And put bloody handprints all over it. Definitely never happened. Like, what? That is an extreme situation. Was there any statues pulled down? No. But, hello, they desecrated the Terry Fox Memorial. Yeah, but he's a white male that, did something pretty great, so why are you defending him? Oh, I guess you're right. I guess you can do whatever you want. I guess you can do whatever you want to that sick, racist fuck. Pardon my language, guys. I use it when I'm doing voices. Sometimes I've got to. It just makes the impression better. I'm not normally a potty mouth. And that's another thing that drives me nuts. It's like, let me cook. Let me bake some cake. Let me make a sundae. Put some sprinkles on it. Some hot fudge. I'm not a robot. I have to joke around, too. Wrong role models. Was I done that last thought? Can someone answer me? Peter, were you done that last thought? Gary, was I done that last thought? Gary? You need to answer me, Gary. Was I done saying what I needed to say? Darn it, Gary. You need to answer. Camo, was I finished that thought? Can I move on, Governor? Wrong role models. Wilkinson said he's a big fan of the crime drama series, The Sopranos. You know that 10-year-old series? He's a big fan of the latest crime drama series on HBO, The Sopranos. We always saw two of the main characters, Tony and Polly, as being really cool. But since working on Cicerone, he's watched the series from a different viewpoint. So he thought that Tony and Polly were super cool. Super cool guys, hey. Hey! What's with all these fanooks? But since working on Cicerone, he's watched the series from a different viewpoint. So, if you watch Sopranos, yes, everybody wanted to be like Tony, right? It's like when you watch The Wire, everybody wanted to be like Stringer or Avon Barksdale or Slim Charles or like friggin' Omar or like dude in the inn there, Marlowe, right? Or whoever your character was that you like. People see stuff on TV and they see stuff in movies, they hear stuff in music, and they repeat it because it's a cult of personality. And that happens, right? But it didn't come out of anything necessarily natural. It came out of that cult of personality that was portrayed to you on the screen, right? Because that's what people do. They repeat stuff that they see. And as entertainment has become so invasive in our lives, everything is a reference to entertainment or a cultural reference. You notice that? Where you can't just talk about normal things. You know? Is the river up today? I don't know. Did you see that Maple Leafs game? Yeah, I seen it. They lost. Again. Right? You know, he talks about anything normal. Everything's a reference. Hey, did you see that new Netflix program, dude? It's so cool. So cool. Hey, did you see that new Holocaust documentary on Netflix? Which one? So after he played the character in the made-up storyline based off of watching gangster movies and you not knowing anything about that world or being involved with it, but yet you're going to make a movie where then you are playing the gangster guys and all your references come from a show, right, that you only see little glimpses of these characters' lives in. And so then you're going to make this short 11-minute movie about toxic masculinity and wrong role models. The point of these shows is not to make these guys your role models. That was the point about it. The Simpsons used to be a really good show because it used to be funny, first of all. And it used to make fun of culture and trending things, right? And now that's all it works off of. Because that's all that anybody knows. Whereas before, they could literally make jokes and references about different towns and states and stuff like that. And they were all things that were relevant. They would make fun of actors. They would make fun of movie stars and musicians. They would make fun of religion. They would make fun of the government. They would make fun of everything. And they would all be actually relevant and observable. And that's why it was funny. But now they're trying to create a laugh by giving people the things that they already know and just repeating it and say, The Simpsons did a reference to my favorite show. Right? And it used to be where they'd make fun of the character, but now it's like, it's more about celebrating that character and whatever they represent, right? But when you watch The Simpsons, you weren't like, I'm going to be like Homer. Right? Poe! Sir, that's dough. Oh. Dough! Right? Oh. No, you're not supposed to try to be like that. And then when it's a cartoon, it should be all the more understandable that you shouldn't repeat these things. But we all did. And I lived many years bringing everything back to a Simpsons reference. First 10 seasons only. Never a reference made after 10th season. Never. Never. The Simpsons had 10 seasons. I don't care what you say. 10. Maybe was the 11th? Was half the 11th decent? I don't even know. After 10 I just shut it out. It's done. But I could every reference could always go back to a Simpsons reference. I was good at referencing stuff. I was good at referencing movies. But now I don't watch any movies. I don't watch any sports ball. I don't do any of the stuff. So I guess I'm just a loser. And I don't have any pride in my country because I don't watch Canadian crime dramas and watch hockey every night and act like a friggin' cuck. When people watch the film, Wilkinson hopes viewers start to reevaluate the people they look up to, whether they're fictional or real. Well, no, but nobody that's watching it knows anybody like that, right? In real life, like the characters aren't real, and then in their real lives, so they're basically like, "Oh, that's my uncle. My dad said some pretty racist things before. My brother is really kind of. I'm starting to see now from this movie that my brother's actually toxically masculine. Now I need to stay away from him." Right? My buddy that's in this show is, I swear he must be subscribed to that idiot. Because it's this whole brand, this is the Canadian brand, is these middle-aged dudes that were never a Chad. They were never a Chad. Didn't have the parts to be a Chad. Okay? They were never a Chad. And so they like to dress up and play Chad. Only so that they can then point the finger at Chad and say, "Bad Chad. I'm not like Chad, though. I'm not like Chad. I'm more like Cuck. Just call me Cucky. Cucky the Cuckster. Like to cuck around. Cuck around, find out. That's what I always say. Cuck around, find out. Well, you have done did gun cucked. I hope after watching this film people say, okay, well, cool, but also not a great person, you know? Like, what exactly are they doing for society? What are you doing for society? What is your vision of what a man should do for society? Well, first, I think they should attend the Fredericton Jazz and Music Festival. They should at least participate in 1 to 2 Black Lives Matter protests. They should donate to abortion clinics and champion their cause, and also fight for LGBTQRST, RESPCT rights. Two-Spirit. Two-Spirit. I can do that. That could be Two-Spirit. Two-Spirit. I just gotta read this line again. Like, you imagine if this is what the quote you wanted them to say on your behalf. I hope after watching this film, people say, okay, well, cool, but also not great. Not a great person, okay? Let's do it again. Okay, well, cool, but also not a great person. You know? Like, what exactly are they doing for society? No, that was a bad one. That was a bad. I was trying to get it in Trump, but you gotta have certain. The sentences have to be a certain way in order to do Trump. And that wasn't one of those sentences. Okay, well, cool, but also not a great person. You know? What exactly are they doing for society? What are you doing for society? Besides helping it down the progressive road of destruction. Oh, and I guess it's Giffen. Oh, no, it wasn't Griffin at all. I take back the cool name. Giffen. Giffen? Giffen said the main character, Robbie, feels beaten down by society and he's at a vulnerable place where he's on the cusp of possibly becoming a violent young man. Robbie has an uncle in the film who tries to steer him in the right direction, but Robbie instead ends up looking up to John. Giffen said this part of the plot inspired the title of the film, Cicerone, because there's a large Italian community in New Brunswick. Because it is... No, there isn't. Because it is a old term for a guide. I kind of imagined it's as like the male role models that we look up to and the effects that they have on us and the culture that came before us and how we fit into that, said Giffen. Now, it would be okay if you were understanding that the very industry that you're a part of is what has fueled this imagery, this idea, right? Has given men this... There's a documentary, and it was about... it was by Jews, about how the Jews really began Hollywood. And the whole purpose for them creating Hollywood. And that was to create a new American dream. A new realization of what it was to be American. Okay? Gone were the days of old, and now we're looking into the future of prosperity, consumption, and self-indulgence, right? And they built the idea of toxic masculinity as a way to get men to give in to their more baser desires, right? Because they know how men think and they know what makes men tick. So they place things in movies to inspire men to be a certain way. Just like what they did with women, you know, with smoking. Smoking was the first step to having the women's liberation movement, because they were handing out, these Jews were going around and handing out these things called freedom sticks, what they're calling cigarettes, and they were just having women to go in these random places out in public and just to start lighting up and smoking. And so then these reporters were all over like, women are throwing off the shackles of homemaking and are taking up smoking as a part of their retaking back of their femininity, right? And the whole reasoning behind getting women to start smoking was because the concept was that women didn't want to smoke, but what you had to do is convince women that by them smoking, they were sticking it to the man, and it was causing the women to think, I get a little bit of a penis here. I get a little bit of that penis power. I get a little bit of that big dick energy smoking this cigarette. And that's truthfully how they promoted it, right? And you see all throughout Hollywood where everybody's just, especially back in the 60s, and everybody's just smoking, right? And even when we grew up, there's a lot more people that smoked. And now they've gotten everybody hooked on smoking, pushed it, doctors pushed it, right? Commercials for it and everything, and now it's the worst thing going, right? And you're just a dirty piece of crap if you're a smoker. Right back. And it's really just quite amazing, you know? It's quite amazing how we allow them to tell us how we are and why we are bad and why we are wrong and all this stuff, when we have all the tools and means necessary to flip the script back on them and to take them to task. Take our leaders to task by saying, hey, what was the belief and the standard of men and women who founded this country? You can't get away from it. You can't get away from the fact that every area has little churches in every town, every community. In all the big cities, there's big churches around those different neighborhoods. All over the places, there's churches. All over the rural areas, all over this country, there are places that are named after places in the Middle East. Okay? They're also named after places in Europe, which also were named after places in the Middle East, coincidentally. And why do you think that would be? It's like there's a thread that just continues throughout time. And it's God. Okay? Okay, it's God, okay? It's God. He's present throughout His creation. He's outside of it, but He's ever present, watching over, involved with. Right? Allowing free will to take place. Allowing man to choose his destiny. Because what's your ultimate destiny? There's two places where you're destined to go. There's two places where people are guaranteed to go when they die. One of everlasting joy, or one of everlasting torment. And you know, believing, having faith, trusting in God, in the gospel, it doesn't, like I said earlier, it doesn't require you to bring something special to the table. You don't get anything to offer. All you have is your broken self. And once you understand that it's a lot more freeing to know that, hey, I can't bring anything to the table. The work has already been done. And that freedom there allows you then to go forth and do the work that God would have you do. Allows you to be filled with the Holy Spirit. And, I've struggled with this myself, right? I've been a person that's been in the church different parts of my life. I always had a relationship with people in the church. I've also been outside the church. Lived a double life, different points in time, right? Because the flesh always fights against the spirit. And no matter how hard I would like to try, I can't get away from God. Okay? I can go on for a long time. I can run on for a long time. But sooner or later, God's going to catch up to me. He's going to bring that hook out, that shepherd's hook. He's going to yank me back in. And how many times do you want to play that game with God? And so if you haven't committed yourself to Him, like, what is committing your life to it? Again, you're not offering Him anything. So you don't have to go in with this perfect record. You don't have to say, well, I have to stop drinking, I have to stop doing this, or I can't do this if I'm going to believe in God. Or no, that's not how it works. Right? The fact is that you're dead in your sins. So you need to be reborn. Right? And to be reborn, right, as a new child, your sins are no more. They are not held against you. As far as the east is to the west, they are not held against you. Right? But again, I turn 65 next year, and I've been living
in an old camper for the last 12 years. You got this, David. What was David saying? I'm in the city. You're clearly just diagnosed with some foot blood flow issues. Sorry to hear about that, David. Can not really go anywhere as feet freeze and absorb cold within minutes. May need surgery. More reason to exit. Don't exit anytime soon, brother. David FL. My brother, Joseph Branscombe. He is not foot loose, but he's footless. He's lost both of his feet in the last couple of years due to blood flow, foot issues, and leg issues. So I'm sorry to hear about your situation, but don't give up the fight. God's not going to take you out of here until it's time to take you out of here. So have faith in Him and put your hope in Him. It wouldn't be a very nice situation that you're in. I won't lie to you. But we're all here for you, and we're thinking of you, and we're praying for you. Canadian Sandy, I hear you. I'm 61 and been disabled for the past 10 years, just existing. But I figure the good Lord kept me here for a reason. Best I can figure is to bear witness to this insanity. Amen to that. You got to keep pushing. My health ain't the greatest too. It's a struggle indeed, also a blessing. Yes, it is. And you know what, guys? Go farther. Go farther back, Pete. Go farther back. Oh. Yes, it's all a struggle. We are in a race. We're in a race, and we have to race till the very end, or crawl, or hobble, or whatever. But even though the physical might be lacking, allow your spirit to thrive. Allow your spirit to take precedent, and let that carry you. So today I was driving home, or driving back from one job, and on the highway I went in front of somebody, past somebody, and there was a car that just had passed me, and then I kind of pulled out behind them, and then this truck started following behind me, and it was you could tell it was a work truck, big set of side mirrors on it, and a rack in the back. So it wasn't just, your average city slicker or whatever. It was definitely somebody, a working guy, young guy, rough guy, hard to say, farmer guy, woods guy, hard to say, but it was definitely a work truck. It was definitely a beater truck kind of thing. But anyways, they're coming along behind me, and just kind of watch, and I'm going to notice that they're getting up kind of close on me. And I'll pull in after passing somebody, and then they'll pull in right behind me, and then I'm on cruise control, so I kind of end up kind of cruising up ahead a little bit of them. And then they'll kind of just stay back, but then all of a sudden I'll be coming up another vehicle, and I'll go to pass them. Well, no sooner than I get my blinker on, are they speeding up, and they're hitting their blinker, and they're following behind me. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? Are these people following me? What's happening here? Did I cut that guy off or something? Is he mad at me? He's not flashing any lights at me. I know my tailgate isn't down, so it can't be that. What's going on? So I'm driving along, and and they're still following me. They're keeping right up behind me, and it's getting to the point where it's like they're definitely following me. And if I pull off, are they going to pull off beside me or behind me? So I'm going through different scenarios and whatnot, and I drove all the way to Sussex, and I'm thinking about it. Okay, they're still following me.
I'm going to pull off the four corners, come down off the ramp. I'm going to stop at the stop sign. I'm going to pull a right past the Irving. And then I'm going to take another right that's going to go in behind the government garage and the campsite drive-in theater, and come in behind underneath the highway and end up at my job building. And so I'm thinking, if I pull off and I take that right and I take that other right and they still come behind me, I'm in an open enough area kind of thing where there's enough traffic going around that I'm going to pull over right to the side of the road if they keep following me. If I make those two right turns and they follow me, I'm pulling over. And then I'm trying to look to see how many people are in the truck. Like, it was hard to tell because it was dark inside. Someone driving, but I couldn't tell if there was a passenger. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, when I pull over, I got to wait to see if the doors open up. And then if there's only one door that opens up, who's getting out? Do they got something? As soon as they step out and I get a clear vision of them, then I'll know what my next move is going to be. If they got something, well, I was thinking about backing up or taking off, one of the two, depending on what they got. If they don't and they're just going to mouth off and want to go at it, well, then I'm hopping out and I'm running up on them as they're getting out, right? Once I know that they don't got nothing. So I pull off the highway. They're right behind me. They're pulling off too. So I'm like, okay, this is what it is. I'm like, God, I was like, help me in this situation. Give me the strength that I need to do what I need to do here right now. Hopefully, this is all a misunderstanding and I'm crazy. But regardless, help me out here. So I pull off the highway, down the ramp, come to the stop sign, and at this point in time, I've reached over and I got a knife in my center console, and I've got it, and I've opened it, and I got it in my fist, the blade pointing out that way, because I want it kind of semi-hidden when I hop out the truck if I need it. And that's what I was ready for. I pull up the stop sign. Well, they end up pulling up left side of me, and they're going to go left. I'm going right. When they pulled right up, but they were going to turn, and I was going to turn. Guy on the passenger side was looking out right over at my truck. But I couldn't really get a good look. All I could tell was the guy was in like middle age, kind of rough looking. So I'm like, okay. So I took a right. So I'm like, oh well. Fold the knife back in, put it down, and then I'm like, but I'm not out of the. I can go. Hey, what happened? Not out of the clear yet, because I can go around this way and they can go around that way, and we'll both end up meeting at the same spot. So I go around, take the shortcut. They take the normie way. And sure enough, when I'm coming up on our building, the shop, this truck is coming towards me. So I get there first. I pull into the shop yard. They pull in behind me, and I'm like, okay, this is on. They're coming. Either they were literally following me to come to the shop, or they want to fight, and I'm ready to freaking fight right now. I put the knife away because I'm pulling into the shop, so I know, okay, safe spot here. There's gonna be other people around, so I don't want to be pulling out a knife. I'll get out and I'll fight them, and then whoever else comes and situation will be handled, right? If that's what's going on here. But I couldn't believe it that I was actually pulling in and they were coming behind me. So I pull up right to the side beside the building. They pull up in the parking spots right out in front of the building. I get out of the truck, turn right around and start walking towards them, and the guy gets out of the passenger seat and he's like, oh, hold that thought. Sex Find has just joined us. Welcome, Sex Find. It just so happens that after the stream stopped and went live again, that now you're here. Thank you. I'm so glad that you've come. Guys, the best dating sex website is on sexfind.xyz. That's what the thing says. What do we do here? Remove? Hide user? Put user on timeout. There. So, anyways, buddy gets out, and he's all like hunched over when he gets out, and he's like, starts laughing with this big smirk on his face, and I'm like, Con! Con! Because that's his name, Con. Con! Con! I was like, Con! He's like, man, we followed you the whole way. We must have followed you from Moncton. I was like, yeah, you sure did follow me from Moncton. I'm like, I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was gonna have to get out and fight a couple people. And he's laughing. There's a woman that was driving. They had a girl with him. I assume it was her daughter. She was the hired hand. And she was like, he told me to follow you. I was saying that we're gonna get here and he's gonna punch me in the mouth when we get here. And I'm like, no. I said, I'm really glad this is what it was, because I was starting to get freaked out and wondering what the heck was going on, because clearly you guys were following me. Hilarious friggin' moment. Like, to get to such a point where I'm thinking, I might have to kill these motherfuckers, right? I might have to do some dirt on a Monday afternoon. Right? I might have to do some dirt on a Monday afternoon. Put some people in the ground. But no, they were just following me to get to the shop because they didn't know how to get there. That's all. Completely opposite of what my mind went to. And in my head, I was like, it's either one or two things. They're either following me because they want to kill me, fight me, or they're following me because they're literally trying to get to the shop and they recognize my truck. But I didn't recognize that truck. So, that's my funny story for tonight. I was saying I wish my other live stream was still up, because it had a really funny story too about the guys when I showed up at an Irving at like 12 o'clock, and there was these guys that had a van that was broken down, no stickers on it, bunch of stuff busted off of it, had the lights left on after it broke down, drained the battery. They had a friggin' car with a little dolly trailer hooked onto the back with these couple like loose ramps, like wheel ramps. And long story short, it was a friggin' Trailer Park Boys episode. I'll have to talk about it on another day, because it's a good story to bring out, and one that might be good if I'm standing up back there so I can move around a little bit. I like to get animated. I like to get animated when I tell stories. When I have to sit and be really still, I get really boring and slow, and my stories drag out, and it's like, what were you even talking about again? And I'm like, I don't even know what I was talking about, bro. I don't even know anymore, man. Oh, shoot. Anyways, 11:46. Is there any more to read on? Do we really need to read any more about toxic masculinity? It's always these ones that were never able to be masculine. Oh, my buddy there that I was talking about, I said that he reminded me of somebody. There's this dude. I see him every now and again, and he doesn't show up in my feed very often, but he's this Canadian guy. And he acts like the typical elitist liberal Canadian who hates the United States and therefore hates anything that resembles the United States. And in reality, what they hate is traditional Christianity and its role in this country, and the role of men and the role of women in this country. That's what these guys don't like, because they never were able to fulfill that role, but instead were given the keys to the kingdom, right? And now that they have the keys, they think that they're going to right the wrongs by not allowing you to stand up for yourself or do anything. But the whole thing is that when these people that are like this, when they stand up and try to become authoritarians, it doesn't usually work out for them. Have you ever had an idiot or like a just complete useless person in a job or somewheres, and for some reason they have this chip on their shoulder and they think that they're in charge, and they're the only ones that can tell it like it is, and they're gonna belittle somebody, or they're the boss, right? They're in charge, but the only reason why they're in charge was because they're in that position, but no one's challenged them in their behavior, right? They don't have to be the way that they are, but because they don't like themselves, they have to project the hatred they have for themselves onto you, because they hate what you represent. They hate that they can't be like you, right? And meanwhile, we wish we could just be like them. No, I'm just kidding. Meanwhile, for guys like us, or old school guys, it's just a natural thing, right? It's how you were brought up. It's what you view as being a man. Like when you look at what's being a man, like I don't look at action movies. I don't look at modern era action heroes or anything like that, or these juiced up roid heads and stuff like that. Like that's the epitome of masculinity, right? All these faggots that get up in their underwear and thongs and tan themselves all up, take their body to the point of friggin' brink of death, putting on massive amounts of weight, then cutting down, injecting themselves with all kinds of compounds and whatnot, just to have the appearance of being the most manly guy around. It's all a appearance. Well, it's just to see how far the human body can be taken. What's the need? Right? When it gets to a certain point, and nobody really cares in regular life, right? Like, you can say, wow, that guy's huge. And then you're like, I wonder how he washes his hair or wipes his butt. Like, gentlemen, that guy's really good shape, but he breathes really heavy. And all these same ones that were all injecting themselves over years with different steroids and different compounds, these are the same type of people that lie about it, and then they take something that affects them adversely, and then they turn around and they blame the steroids. Don't forget tattooed to no end. Yes, tattooed to no end. Like all the tattoos, guys that are loaded with tattoos, because the perception is that you're a badass, that you're tough, that you're mean, that you're gritty, right? That you're a rebel because you get a tattoo, right? All these things that are just little gimmicks, right? At one point in time, if you weren't a tough guy and you got a tattoo, well, you would get made fun of for it, right? Just like if you were a little shrimp nerd boy and you tried to be all tough, someone said, sit the fuck down, man. Shut up. What are you going to do? Shut up. Right? When you got somebody that clearly is in over their head and they're trying to be tough, do you allow them to continue that way and rule over people? No. You set them straight. You set a bully straight. Now all these people that are upset about the bullies, they're now the bullies, right? Because you're not allowed to bully. So you take the bullies, who they would just say are males, masculine males, you take them out of the equation, or you at least make them not care about anything and just obsessed with, day trading stocks and crypto and looking at Andrew Tate memes, right? If that's what's considered masculine. But it's all a delusion. The real men were the ones that cleared the fields, the ones that worked in the mines, the ones that drive the trucks, the ones that build the houses, the ones that farm the land, the ones that work in the woods, the ones that build stuff, the ones that do stuff, the ones that love their family and cherish their family and take care of their family and would die for their family and stand up for their neighbors and love their community and love God most of all. Those are the men who we need to look up to, but we're not allowed to look up to them men because before yesterday everybody was racist, right? And the whole problem is we've all got issues. We've all had different times in our life where we've done stupid things. We've all had times where we said gay things. We've all had times where we said stupid things. We've all had times where we were completely irresponsible, reprehensible, abhorrent, into degenerate things. We played around with foolish, vain, childlike things, and we didn't put it away. But now it's time to put it away. It's time to grow up, and it's time to be men. And I know a lot of guys that are watching this. I'm seeing the ages and whatnot that are in here, and I know there's some of the guys are older in this chat. And that's cool. Because you guys probably, a lot of you haven't fallen for a lot of the same traps and pitfalls that the men of my generation did. And the ones after myself. Because every generation we could say, oh, look at all these youngsters and what they're falling for. And meanwhile, the guys before you were saying, look at these guys. They're not gonna be able to take over after us, right? There was always that sense where every generation, right, is kind of like, oi. Once the culture war started coming in, right? Once the prosperity and the false idea of what American exceptionalism is, what the American dream is, what Canada is, this whole socialist utopia, once that was established as being the progressive future that we were aiming for, we left everything in the past, and we've just been lighting fires behind us along the way, just trying to destroy every bridge possible to get to this point where they have people so divided that how possibly can people come together? There's too many different factors that are going into it. How can people come together under God when there's so many people that don't even believe in God? There's so many people in this country that you're prodigal sons, and you walked away from God, and you left God a long time ago because of reasons. Whatever your reasons were, someone offended you, you were offended at what you read, by what a preacher said, by hypocrisy in the church, by what you see in the world, or problems that you have that you think, that why has God done this to me? Whatever your reasons are, you're a prodigal son because you're wrestling with God. If you're wrestling with God, that must mean He's chastening you. That must possibly mean that you're part of Israel, and it might possibly mean that you're going to triumph, and you're going to triumph with God. You're going to be victorious with God, because it's like Jesus said to Thomas. He said, hey, Thomas, my hands, my feet, touch them, handle me, see that this is true, right? God doesn't just say, believe what I say and don't look into anything, right? Faith comes with believing things that you can't 100% prove because they're a mystery yet to most people. You might know it, but the mystery hasn't been revealed to them. So it's not necessarily common knowledge. But God is revealing His plan for the world throughout history. And it's a live action simulation, if you want to call it that, And those that are taking the time to wrestle with God are those that God is clearly has a hold of, and he's chastening to bring them back onto himself, because he's gathering his people onto himself. And the goats, just like Leviathan, he's going to lead Leviathan with a hook. He's going to lead him right back out. He's going to take the goats and he's going to separate them from the lambs. Wheat and the tares, they're growing up together. There's going to be a harvest. One for the wheat, one for the tares. Tares will go to the threshing floor, or the wheat will go to the threshing floor, and the tares will get burnt up in the fire. So, before we do anything, we got to go back to God. Declare a solemn assembly. Set a fast. Pray over our nation. Pray over our leaders. Pray over what we should have to do with our leaders. Have God guide us. Turn away from our abominations and our sins, our idolatry, our adultery, our whoremongering, our wicked, sinful ways. Let's turn away from them and turn on to Him, so that we can take power back in this country peacefully. And so by doing peacefully, we can do justly. God has given us government to be an exactor of justice, to be a terror unto the wicked one. But when the government does not receive the power that's been given unto them and wield it as a sword against evil, but rather as a form of control, and through deceptive ways turning God's law into corruptible things, worshiping the creature more than the creator. When man does that, and every day we continue to affirm that and not acknowledge God, every day, just think about that, counting up. Every day God's getting madder and madder and madder. Right? His patience is amazing. And every day that we continue to deny Him, it builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up. Exactly why they had to shut down Ottawa. It broke their spell of fear and division. That's true. That's true. The convoy did. Convoy did. Speaking of convoy, sporadic brain here. So, Jeremy, the EMAs, Diagolon, all this stuff they keep on mentioning and bringing up, and whatever your thoughts are and opinions of him are, and where you think he stands and different things like that. Regardless, they kept him under incarceration based off of the fact that they hate him and are working very diligently to destroy him. That's a fact. They're lying about it. I mean, our sentiments, we're very serious about the things that we believe and what we're against. But we joke a lot, don't we? We say lots of maybe inflammatory things, you know, that you say when you're around close friends, that you wouldn't necessarily say about around everybody. Not because you mean it, but because you don't want them to take it the wrong way and run with it. Because some people you can't joke around with and they're no fun, right? Some people take everything to heart and then they know that it's a joke, but yet they run it all over the media as a way to smear people and have people think that they're the problem. It's like if you have a heart attack, it wasn't because you were out of shape, eating terribly, sleeping terribly, years and years of neglecting your health, all this stuff. It wasn't that brought the stress on to give you the heart attack. I'll go further with this, but I won't because, strike. But it wasn't the fact of all those compounding things in your life. No, it wasn't that. It had to do because someone brought it up to you and made a suggestion that maybe you need to, live a little healthier. Get outside, go for a walk. Maybe not eat so much at nighttime. Maybe not eat so much greasy saturated foods, right? Maybe don't binge watch Netflix, right? Maybe get some fresh air. Get a hobby, To suggest that solution is very problematic, okay? You can't just go around giving people suggestions that will benefit their life and their health. It's so fascist, right? No grease, no. No grease, no. I missed that. Grease lightning? Anyways, guys, it's 12:05. I could continue on here. You guys could shoot me some ideas. Adam Collins? Like you're not a doctor. Okay. I don't know who you are, Adam Collins, but I assume that's how you say that. Like, you're not a doctor, okay? Okay. What are you, Bill Maher? Greasy food. Oh, there we go. Hey, don't get me wrong. Ah! Good. Good. You're welcome in here, Mr. Collins. Canadians say, the dog drags my sore arse out the door daily. It's a good dog. It has to go pee, has to go poop. I get up, I take it out. The dog keeps me sane so I don't go out and kill everybody. They say that dogs are best friend, but I don't know. I don't know. I think boosters. Boosters for everybody. Boosters are a man's best friend. He was a hunting route. I'm the one in the pack he has to wait on. Well, at least he waits. Right? At least he doesn't get way ahead of you, right? You gotta keep calling for him. Where'd that dog go to? Trigger! Trigger! Where'd you go, boy? Sit. Sit, boo-boo, sit. Good dog. Alright, guys. I'm gonna head on out. Thanks for showing up tonight. Let's be men of God, and I don't mean it in some cheesy sense. I'm not trying to be an idiot. Not making a secret organization or anything. Just raising a standing army of uncorruptible men that are dedicating their life to serving God, and taking back this country. That's all. I just want to raise an army of uncorruptible, godly men that aren't perfect and they have their own issues, but they know what perfection is, and that is what the goal is. Good night, Peter. Thanks. A good night. Chat, purebloods are the only confirmation humanity has. It's a chance to stand strong. Well said, Gary. Well said. Oh, I said purebloods. Oh, we're going to be done. This stream's over. This stream's over. I mentioned medical stuff. They don't like it when I do that. Sorry, I try to catch you as often as I can. No, I thank you for coming out. I think all you guys for coming out. I appreciate you guys coming. If there was a way that I could make this show a little bit more entertaining, I would try to do so. It's just what I'm working with here, right? It's mostly me talking, some impressions, and some Bible, and hopefully it all commingles together nicely, and you get something out of it. You know, I just want to stand strong together. Thanks, better. It's always great, bro. Good night, Gary. Good night, Canadian Sandy. Good night, Camo. Good night, Gary Clothier. Gary Squared. Good night, Adam Collins. Okay. David FL. Thanks for coming out, buddy. Have a good night, brother. Miss Maskless was in the building. Miss Maskless always puts up Bible verses and little memes here and there on her community page. Has some good stream stuff too. She's one of our betters from the States. Just kidding. But she is from the States. We won't hold that against her. In fact, we kind of envy her. Because at least down in the States, there's some choice. You know, they say, oh, they got Fox News and stuff. Well, at least they got Fox News. At least they got one channel that sometimes tells the truth when Tucker Carlson's right. At least they're half informed down in the States, right? At least you can go from one state to another state and be like, okay, this is normal here. This is cool. People are reasonable, right? And people are here too, but everybody's terrified. Nobody wants to resemble an American, right? We grew up, I'll say this before we go. We grew up, and it was always this. Oh, well, Jim Carrey's Canadian, right? Hey, what about Our Lady Peace? They're Canadian. James Cameron, Canadian, kind of. Neil Young, he's Canadian. Yeah, we got Neil Young, right? We beat the United States in hockey, right? We always have these things where it's like, yes, yes. Whenever there was a Canadian that broke through into Hollywood or the music industry or something like that in the States, we're like, yes, we have one. We have one. We have one. Right? It's like, the Olympics would happen in the United States. It's like the United States rounding up with 103 medals, 65 gold, 23 silver, and 10 bronze or whatever, right? And like Canada was like, Canada finishing off with an impressive 10 medals. We got 10, and we beat them in hockey. All 10 medals were in hockey. Right? And that was our thing, right? And that was cool. It was like, yeah, somebody's breaking through. But then all of a sudden, there started to become more of a scene around here where it's like, we have our own stuff here too, And it's like, yeah, we know we got our own stuff here, but it's you guys that are always like watching American programming and wishing Canadian programming was more like American programming. You're the ones that watch American programming and refuse to watch Canadian programming because it sucks so bad. Right? And then all this money started swirling around seemingly for Canadian artists and filmmakers and all this stuff like that. And instead of trying to do things in a way that works, Canada's like, how can we make a retarded movie that nobody outside of this country, or in this country for that matter, wants to see? Oh man, it's absolutely like we will do everything we can to virtue that we're not like Americans. Oh, you believe anything American says? Really? That's what they do in America. Same thing happens here, maybe on a smaller scale, right? Same things can happen because Americans are dumb, racist, Christian Southerners. Well, praise be to God. It's just a wonderful day out here. We just thank God for all the blessings that He's given us. Right? And that's what science jumping. What's that? I never seen that word in the Bible. Actually, it is in the Bible, but they want to portray if you got an accent like that, if you sound like you're not city slicker, college educated, right? That you're an idiot. And then because you also 2022 and you still believe the Bible, hello, idiot, right? Because all of them have gotten away with so long being cute at, taking jabs at the Bible, taking rips out of Christ, making fun of Christianity. Christianity's like, well, we can't say anything back because they told us that wouldn't be Christian of us, so we have to listen to them. Right? We're all told how to act, and then we act like it, and then we rebel against it. But we don't end up rebelling against the right thing, right? Because then we rebelled against our tradition, our Christian traditions at one point in time so that we could go out and fulfill our lusts and our desires. And now all of us that were like that, now we're all seeing like jumpings, that traditional stuff, that old way, I understand. I understand why my dad, kept on trying to hammer that into my head all those years, and I wouldn't listen. I wanted to go out and do my own thing. It's all making so much more sense now. But we're going that way, and the ones that were center, that weren't necessarily super liberal, they were just center. Those people are so far left now, and the ones that are left, they're just beyond the pale. So, now can I end it? Can I end the stream now, guys? I'm going to end it now. We don't like being American, but yet we envy everything about America. All the rights and freedoms America has, we have those same rights, because all those rights weren't given to us by a Declaration of Independence. They weren't given to us by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They weren't even given to us by Runnymede and the Magna Carta. Given to us by God. The liberties that we have in Christ Jesus. So see not that we just, like a dog, return to the vomit. See not that we go back and put on the bondage of this world, right? That basically traps us. So now it's all about being a mousy man with an MP. It's all about being a mousy man with an NPR voice and crisp vest with a nice pair of shoes that a good modern American Christian now. Is that close? It's all about talking moistly. Okay, guys, we're going to talk about the love of God today. Said no prophet. Well, not with the love of God, but in a moist voice. There it is. Hey, I like this, Adam Collins. You're just giving me stuff, man. Come back next time. Just keep on pumping references out there so I can read them, understand what you're doing, and then put a voice to it. See, there's certain people that I can click with. Certain people get me almost immediately. And Adam, you might be one of those people. There's a lot going on in this head. Don't let the face fool you. Don't let how I speak fool you. I'm not all dumb, but I'm good sometimes. Don't make me blush, Canada. Now you're making me blush. Okay. I become 6 at the end of every day. Now I lay my head down to sleep. I pray my Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. They used to say that all the time when I was a youngster. Canadian Insanity. That was the prayer that Dad would go over with me. And then, of course, also the other one, our Father, who art in heaven. Go with God, my brothers and sisters. I can say sisters because Miss Maskless was in the building. And I know of at least 2 other girls that are subscribed that might pop in. Christ bearing Greek letters was here at the very beginning. Never seen him before. Thanks for coming out. Darren Turner was here. Thanks for coming out, Darren. Everybody, have yourselves a wonderful day. I seen Alfred Witzke here too at some point in time, so sorry if I didn't acknowledge your brother. Richard of America. I read that comment and didn't even realize that it was Richard from America. You know why I didn't recognize it, Richard? Because you didn't have your mustache man friggin' what's that reporter that's on CNN that always puts his foot in his mouth? Van Waldo? Geraldo. That's what it was. Geraldo. Where's your Geraldo picture? Foxy Loxy. Do you name pigeon peckers here? Night all. Do you name pigeon peckers here? Who did 9/11? What are you talking about? Who did 9/11? Who do you think did 9/11? Pigeon peckers? Is that the same as the circumcision? I don't know what you're talking about. Geraldo with the naked towel pick. Yeah, I seen that. Pigeon peckers are the same thing as chicken swingers. JD 911. I don't know who you are either. Seeing some new folks swinging by. You know what? I'm just shutting this bish down. This bish down. So sorry that you guys are coming in late, but this cat's got to go. If you want to know more about who did 9/11, then come back to the next live stream. Maybe we can talk about such things. 9/11. It was a national tragedy. Did you know that? It was a national tragedy, and they used it to galvanize sleeping Christianity, right? Into an ideal. We know, duh. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for commenting, Foxy Loxy. Foxy Loxy. All right, I'm going. Peter, why are you covering for them? I thought you were a truther. Covering for who? Oh, okay, I see what this is. I'm not saying certain words, right, that everybody else is saying right now. So again, I got to be one of them, right? That's how it is. Unless you say the actual thing, unless you say the thing that got you the strike last time, so you couldn't stream, right? I don't believe you're a truther. You know, go fuck yourself. How about that? How about that? We can start there. You can start by doing that, and then after you're done, come ask me again. Then I'll tell you to do it once again. We are censoring. Okay. No, we're not censoring anything. You're clearly, obviously, somebody that's not even in the community because they've never seen you before, so you're obviously probably working for CSIS or Anti-Hate or one of these other fag shows. You just are. Sure. Anyways, so guys, have yourselves a wonderful night. Peace out. Jeremy McKenzie is on his way back into the land of the living, out of the prison. I wonder if he had time to write Diagolon Struggle when he was in jail. I wonder if he had enough time to come up with that. That would be hilarious, to be honest with you. I'm just gonna put that out there. Like, it would be really hilarious if, when he came back to streaming, if he started talking about this book that he wrote and you called it, you know, Diagolon Struggle or something. That would be hilarious. It would drive the media nuts. It would be hilarious, I think. Ask Camo who we are. I don't want to ask Camo. If Camo wants to tell me who you are, then he'll tell me who you are. Otherwise, I don't really care. Right? So, anyways. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Peace.